Hi, Misha here, and this is Patreon Q&A 22. And we are in Fox's, Booch's, Mancave. Say hello to the people.
Hello, people.
And so we're going to answer a few questions. This is, I guess, kind of a Halloween Patreon as well. And we just got through doing a large day of shooting, so we've got quite a bit of new or revisited shooting range content. So, this, Patreon, you know the deal. Bucking up a month, you can submit questions. This one's a little overdue because we're waiting on the man cave to be done. And here we are. I guess this is Halloween edition, but yeah, feel free to visit the link to the Patreon if you'd like to help support us. And we might have a bit of a rotating cast tonight. But with that, I guess, yeah, first question.
First question from Cody W. Hey, Misha, I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the Norinco Polytech M14S rifle from the pre-ban era? Do you think they are worth it over something like a Springfield, Bula, or Fulton? It still upsets me to think about all the different guns that Norinco and China make that we can no longer import here.
Okay, the Springfield M14Ss, excuse me, the Norinco M14Ss and the Polytechs, they were a mixed bag. They were good forged receivers, and they were okay barrels, but they weren't made to original specs. They were made with more metric patterning, so it got a little weird when you went to replace things like the muzzle device. The furniture they came with was so-so. Where they really fell down, the bolt, they were just kind of eh. So, frankly, they were run-of-the-mill. They were a Chinese clone of an American rifle. And a lot of the Chinese clone guns, be it like their version of an 870 or a Sega, they're commercial grade, not military grade. They were fine. They were inexpensive. I honestly think a Fulton would definitely be better. And I know people have varying opinions. I've always had really good luck with Springfield M1As, but the Chinese guns are okay, but I never thought a whole heck of a lot about them. They were a reasonably priced clone copy, where probably the receiver was the highlight.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I think they're a little bit of a kind of a case of where, because we can't have them, maybe the esteem for them has been slightly artificially boosted.
Hasn't that been with a lot of guns here lately?
Yep, it has. But unlike, say, the Chinese AKs, which are made on their military production line, right, they weren't making the M14S on a military production line so much as a commercial.
Right.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, let's go on to question number 2 from Antigonus. You have a couple of modern U.S. military clone rifles like the M16A4 and the M4A1. Lately, I've been getting into cloning Global War on Terror era designs like the MK16 Scar, M4A1 Block 2, and the MK12 Mod 0. As imports or milsurps dry up, do you have any interest in doing more of this type of cloning?
Oh, absolutely. It's just a matter of finding the parts. I was actually having a discussion with Henry Chan Nineho last week about what is mil-spec for something like an M4A1 Block 2 or whatever, and he was kind of laughing that the whole idea that there's like a standard proper configuration, because those guns get over there and they get customized and modified in the field, or field repaired to the point that any number of configurations could be technically correct. You get into kind of older guns, the field narrows if you're doing like a Vietnam clone or an 80s clone. But yeah, the modern stuff, and that's good because you can kind of configure it using the optic or accessories to your own liking. If you like Aimpoint or EOTech, I know you love EOTechs.
Yeah,
you can use either one. Yeah.
Well, and this is a great subject because this is kind of my favorite era of guns anyways, so
yeah,
EOTech.
But no, I like ARs. I can't think of anything to clone right now that LMT comes to mind. I did that Estonian rifle and did a few things to make it correct, including the right optics. I enjoy that. I'd love to do like a clone of a Canadian C7 or C8. That'd be cool. That's their AR-15s, but
the Canadian.
Yeah, the C7, C8, C8A1, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think what it would be right now. I don't know. A Mark 12 would be neat, but since that's kind of a DMR and I can't really shoot for accuracy, that would kind of seem like a waste. But I've done dumber things before, so I could see me getting a wild hair and doing one.
I think you should do it.
It's entirely possible. Yeah, they're cool guns. But I still think the M4A1 is just a neat configuration.
Right on. Well, let's go to question number 3 from Matt P. Do you have a favorite Mauser pattern rifle from the smokeless era? And thanks for all the great content.
I have a question for you.
What?
Name a Mauser.
I can't.
I thought you just randomly pick one. I need to bring some bolt guns down.
I was going to say.
When the weather's cooler. The problem about down here and the humidity is so high, I don't like getting my old blue guns that already have patina out. But when it's drier, I can bring some down.
Let's torture test one.
I've been wanting to bring the Zastava, the M76, which is an 8mm down, which is the AK DMR type.
Okay.
That'd be a great time if I'm running packing 8mm to throw in some old Mausers.
Yeah.
Let's try them out when the weather's good.
I'm down.
Anyway, that was the Patreon part of this, because a lot of this will get edited out for the mainstream. But my favorite Mauser, man, I don't know. There's a lot. I really like the Gewehr 98, the long World War I gun. I love those roller coaster sights. They're really cool. I really have a soft spot for Swedish Mausers, mostly because of J-Ro's dad. They're neat. But you know what? I've always found when you pick one up, it's super smooth. It's the right length. Maybe my favorite would be the Czech VZ24. I don't know. There's something really nice about them. And there's a boatload of history behind them. And they were used by China and Nazi Germany and Romania and Japan. And just everyone used a VZ24. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say, just off the top of my head, that one probably.
Well, good answer. Thanks for the question, Matt P. Bring one down so I can shoot it.
Yeah, well, and I've actually got a good shooter, VZ24. That's the thing, too. You can always find a good shooter. A lot of honest wear, but good bore still. So, yeah, remind me next time I'll pack some 8mm.
Yeah, no doubt. Awesome.
You thought that Benelli M2 thumped. Steel butt plate and 8mm, bonk, right on you. It's the right kind of pain.
I think it was just the buckshot and slugs J-Ro was throwing in there.
Yeah.
He was, I'll load this one up for you.
Yeah, you always know there's a problem there. Whenever there's a revolver that can shoot 38 or 357 and someone offers to load, or a shotgun that can do
the guy that never loads or goes, it's like,
yes.
When the cameraman starts wanting to load,
pulls it out of a black baggie.
Yeah.
It's like black bag shotgun shells. What are those?
And then brings it to you.
It's got XXX stamped on the side.
I should have even really, the radar goes up when they're bringing it to you.
You'll learn.
Shoulder is a little sore.
It's fine. Trust me. You'll love it.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, let's go to Carlton Randleman. He says, I contacted Dave at JDI back in February about ordering another SIG 553, and he replied, I do not see SIG offering build options again.
Yeah, they were doing that custom build where you had an order sheet, you could select your features and submit it and have a custom configured gun. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any insights as to why this might be the case, and do you actually think that we won't see them again, as Dave mentioned?
Well, first off, Dave is the importer, so he would know better than anyone. As to why it happened, I can think of a couple. For one, just SIG has a lot of orders now compared to what they did, and it's easier. Making a custom gun means you have to kind of reconfigure your line to some extent. It's much easier to build 50 or 100 guns identical than to set up for one specific gun. Another time, the gun wouldn't be what people wanted. Now, sometimes it was the customer's fault. Sometimes they would order a long barrel, and then they would halfway through the process change their mind and want a short. So was SIG far enough along in the build that they could do that or not? Who knows? Other times, SIG would just F up. You know, you would order a long barrel, and they would just ship Dave a short. And I know that happened several times because I would end up with that gun. He'd be like, well, this came as a custom gun, but one of the 10 specs wasn't right, and the customer no longer wants it. Do you want it? And I'd say, yeah. But, yeah, it was just, it's not really practical. It's sad. It was a cool feature, but in the modern community, it just doesn't work out.
I think you pretty well answered it, but I'll go ahead and read the rest of this as well. Do you think that we will be limited to whatever option Dave is able to obtain from SIG AG instead?
Yeah, it's kind of it. I mean, he can order guns, and they'll do them, but a lot of times they will just kind of ship over. A good example was that 5.53 AL US we shot last time we came down. And those weren't really ordered. They just offered them to him. He's like, sure. And I'm sure that they were contract overruns for some other more military order. Why not sell them here, you know?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's going to be kind of take what you can get, unfortunately. And I'm also very suspicious that diopter sights are going to become harder and harder to get. And if we find them, they're going to be on the longer barrel guns like 5.50, maybe 5.51. I don't think we'll see many 5.53s with diopters. I said that because people have asked recently.
Right.
And I think it's just going to be pick rail because that's kind of the modern look.
Carlton says, thanks for all the awesome content. All right. Montzster. Good evening, Misha and friends. What is your very favorite Colt AR-15 and why so? Secondly, would you provide a news source? Let's start with
yeah. Favorite Colt, I mean, they're all ARs, but I obviously the SP1 for a lot of reasons. It's classic, it's the original, and it was kind of the only AR to speak of for 20 years. And it was the first one I ever shot. And I love the slim and trim Vietnam look. Of course, if you're talking modern, you know, it's probably the SOCOM, the 6920 SOCOM. But I also really like the AR-15A4. But yeah, I'm gonna say the Colt SP1 just for the classic go. Pretty boring answer, but
it's hard to beat it.
Yeah, it's so tried and true. They don't hear them. They don't fail. They just work.
Right on. Secondly, would you provide a news source from Russia? I'm curious to current events, and I would like an independent and/or unbiased source. Propaganda everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about from or out of Russia nowadays, no, there's really nothing that you could trust. And if you're talking about what's going on there, honestly, things like the BBC are probably decent. Even like Al Jazeera English, because they don't really have much of a dog in that fight, at least compared to a lot of other places. But of course, I get my news about Russia from the most trustworthy source, the great divine leader in North Korea. Who wouldn't? Kim Jong-un.
I get mine from China.
Yeah, China. Okay, and, you know, but
or
I feel like Kim Jong-un is just like more honest. We know him. China's like the faceless mass.
True.
You know who he is. Plus, he talks to dolphins.
I mean, he does.
Yeah,
and he likes Dennis Rodman.
True. Yeah. So yeah. Unfortunately, there is such a thing as like the fog of war, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes out years, maybe even decades later. Right now, it's really hard to know the day-to-day details of what's going on in either Ukraine or Russia.
I do have a question to kind of add to that. Do you think maybe with the social media and what's different about this particular kind of war, there's so much more propaganda and misleading information with technology and communication with, say, the internet? Versus?
Not really, because Russia's always been a big problem. Look at World War II. Look at even before. Russia's always kind of really enjoyed the propaganda. The thing is, propaganda in and of itself happens, and it's happened in every nation. It doesn't mean it's always bad.
That's true.
I mean, there can be positive propaganda for a society.
Good answer. Vince Mantilla. Misha. First, I wanted to say you have the absolute best channel on YouTube. I am a huge history buff like you, and love all of your content. As you stated on your other channel, I know you don't like to talk too much about your blindness, but my grandmother, who passed in 2020 at age 97, was legally blind at birth and pretty much went totally blind by age 20. She was a huge inspiration. Anyways, being a former Army officer, I have always loved Beretta double-action pistols. I would love to acquire a Beretta 84 FS that is in really good shape. Would you know where I could find a gun like this? Vince Mentia.
First off, yeah, the first thing, thanks for that comment. It's not that I don't like talking about it. I mentioned it on my personal channel. The only thing is, I say I don't really find it relevant always. Like, it's a thing. I guess I don't want it to be like my identity, if that makes sense. But I don't mind talking about it at all. I don't know. It's a thing. I deal with it. I get on with life and have my own hobbies and interests, and don't dwell on it. But I don't mind talking at all. I am super not sensitive about it. As far as Berettas, I like the 81 because I'm more of a 32 guy. But you can find quite a few of the 380s out there. As far as surplus, just any of the regular surplus places, they come and go. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think they're doing new productions anymore. I could be wrong on that, but they're really fun little guns. They really are, and there's like a little baby Beretta 92. A lot of fun.
I like the little baby Beretta 92.
Yeah, they're just fun. And back in the 80s, they were kind of one of the few higher capacity potential carry guns.
There wasn't a lot of options.
No, there weren't a lot. And I mean, by today's standards, they're not particularly big or powerful, but back then, it still held 12, 13 rounds versus 7, 8 rounds in the competition. But no, they're fun.
Cool. Thank you for your service, Vince. Mark says, "Hey, Misha, I know you are sick of me asking about Valmets, but are there any options besides Gunbroker or Guns International to look for them?"
Yeah, this is kind of part of a conversation he was asking me. Look, Valmets, they shut down the production line in Finland as early as 1986, and the last guns came over here in 1988. So even if there had not been the ban in 89 on quote-unquote assault rifles for import, they still would have stopped coming in because they quit making them. So they're very much in the realm of secondary market, like any gun similar would be. So you're kind of stuck there, or just trying to hit up major gun shows, or maybe luck into a local shop. Or you could, there are websites that specialize in pre-band guns, but like West Coast Armory, but they are not cheap. Those kind of boutique, they know their clients have money and they're not afraid to go for it.
Call pawn shops. You never know.
Never know. Yeah. The only problem about Valmets, they were always expensive.
Right.
So, yeah, a lot of them didn't get sold here. But usually when you find them, they typically are in nice shape because, again, they were expensive.
Right.
So people weren't beating them up even in 1985.
Stayed more in the safe.
Yeah, or at least they took good care of them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just, with any old gun, you just kind of got to play the game.
All right. Question 8 from Dapadan, or Dapadan. In reference to the Hellion pistol grip selection video, I have no experience in any regard either way, but based solely on the video, the B&T grip looks better.
Yeah, so I put up a personal channel video a while back just saying, hey guys, what do you think? Because sometimes I do just kind of Patreon personal videos, and this is what it was. I had a Knox Blackhawk grip on. It was pretty good, but trying to go something a little more like the VHS 2 grip, a little sleeker, and the B&T here. Me personally, I like it. It's a little narrow, but that's also kind of part of what makes it look authentic.
It does look good. It does look really good.
But, it seems to be, of course, this takes standard AR grips. But I think you have a thing or two to say. You've shot this a few times now.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Dapper there. This grip does look better, but I guess maybe having the bigger hands, I feel like I don't have enough.
It is a smaller ish grip.
Don't really have a whole lot to hold on to. Maybe if you did hold this, you may feel the same depending on your hand size. I was just telling Misha at the range earlier that I'm kind of accustomed to Hogue grips. Not all my ARs even have Hogue grips. However, I think that's what I would slap on this, or maybe wrap it. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Got a question from Al. Hey Misha, I wanted to give you a heads up on a cool parts kit. Israeli police surplus X95 kits with the old style round handguard. And he provided a link on where to purchase.
Yeah, that was just another message I got sent, just kind of commentary. I tell people if they feel like leaving. But yeah, they were cool. It's just neat to see because the older X95 Tavors had that kind of round tubular form meant to work with a suppressor, but the newer ones, much like the X95 semi-auto we have more of a squared off grip with integrated pick rails and covers and stuff. But you know, gun designs change over time, and so those kits featured the, I guess, first pattern of X95 parts and kind of a different something on the parts kit market that came in back around July.
Cool. Christian Smizen, or Smisen, says, did you know if the IDF used the Tavor SAR with the 18-inch barrel and bayonet lug at all? Or was that just made for the U.S. export?
Yeah, and he was one of the $10 Patreons, so I replied to him at the time. But yeah, I was telling him, yeah, originally that was the plan, was to go with the 18-inch TAR-21. And they ended up actually doing a lot of the CTARs, which is the carbine version, 15-inch barrel. And they were ordering, they were fielding them, but then the X95 evolved from the Micro Tavor, the MTAR, and that became the thing originally with a 13-inch barrel, later with a 15. That meant the remaining 18-inch guns kind of ended up being shifted to training, reserve, second line, auxiliary, and so they're in service, but they were planning to make them full, but they decided they liked the little one better. And so, yeah.
Did the IDF or reserve use a 9mm conversion Tavor at all?
And that one I wasn't sure on. I know they originally made it as a submachine gun option, but I don't know if any militaries purchased it. I would suspect maybe a few police departments, maybe not. But submachine guns, they are still used today, but a lot of the time modern assault rifles kind of fill that role, especially smaller barreled ones. So I really don't know, unfortunately.
Was the Baril WZ96 only used by Poland in 5.56? I'm assuming the 7.62 by 39 Radom Barils are something done just for export sales.
And yeah, not really. I mean, they were done for export sales out of Poland. The Polish military always wanted a 5.56 223 version, but they were done select fire for foreign military exports. In fact, they were even offering a 5.45 Baril, but there were no real takers. The major taker, of course, as I'm sure most people know by now, was Nigeria. They not only purchased several thousand Baril M762s from FB Radom in Poland, they actually obtained the rights to produce the gun in Nigeria. And so the Nigerian army will probably be the biggest user of that. But that's because a lot of nations still want to be able to use the traditional AK cartridge and AK magazine for, different needs. But it is a military grade gun, not just something only slapped together for the American commercial semi-auto market. Now, funnily enough, the mini Baril in 5.56, it was never really made in 7.62. I think they had a couple of prototypes in 7.62 by 39, but the mini is pretty much exclusively 5.56.
Appley C says, hi Misha, hope all is well. Need advice. I've watched all your videos on this topic, by the way. As of today, what would you buy from Atlantic? MP5? Do you want to stop here so we could actually grab one?
Yeah, I think we can. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll let you grab on that. But I've made my opinion clear, and we actually do have a MP5 video I don't know if it'll be out by the time the Patreon or the YouTube version of this is out, but I like the MKEs just fine. I've owned an ATI, one of the AT-94s. I've had several of the POFs. I like both, but I have a little bit of a preference for the POF. I obtained my POF in 2014, but recently you picked up one of each of the current 2022 crop of POF, so hand it back over to you.
Yeah, they're both extremely reliable. I haven't had any issues. I really like them. Fun to shoot. I'm probably more biased to that because even when you did your first video on them 7-8 years ago that I watched, I wanted one then, but I think they'd kind of dried up. So yeah, my experience, I would go with the POF.
Yeah,
cool. Oh, Matthew Faulkner says, I just joined your Patreon today after being a big fan of your YouTube channel for many years. Looking forward to all of your content. I hope you are feeling better, and I'm so sorry to hear about Oscar the cat. Me and my fiance lost our eldest cat on Christmas, and it's never easy saying goodbye. If you have some time ahead, can I send you a few questions about buying advice from the Finnish Mosin? This specifically for the M28/30 model. I really appreciate your time. Hope you're having a great weekend.
So yeah, this is kind of back when some of the M28s and M2830s were hitting the market in the summer, and I'd done kind of a couple of update videos. For example, Mosin Crate had some. And yeah, buying those, it's a little different because on a regular Russian Mosin, you have 4 serial numbers on the barrel, which translates to barrel receiver, and then on the butt plate, which basically counts as your stock too, and then on your magazine floor plate, and then of course finally on your bolt. That's because Russian guns come out of the factory all new parts. Because Finland never made certain parts, for example, the receiver, they're all refurbished, rebuilt guns from parts from all over the place to one extent or another. So we call this fin matching. And basically that just means the bolt matches the barrel/receiver serial. And typically it will be where the bolt had a different serial, was lined out and reserialed to match the rest of the gun from Finland. And so that's about as good as it gets. Typically on Finnish guns, there just won't be a serial number on the butt plate, sometimes not even on the magazine floor plate, or it'll be scrubbed off or lined out, what have you. They're hodgepodge guns, and that's okay. That's kind of what they were, built from all these things. And there's a lot that does go into buying one. Investigating the markings can be a lot of fun, but in some ways they're pretty forgiving on the collecting market because of their very nature.
The next question is True Romance a romantic comedy? Is it a rom-com?
And my assertion was absolutely, because did the film make you laugh?
It does absolutely have funny moments. See, what I always wondered about True Romance is, like, you know, the 35-year-old housewife or so who's going through Blockbuster back when that was a day when people used to rent movies. Or, you know, maybe searching through the options on streaming services now, and they come across a movie called True Romance, and she's like, oh, I love Meg Ryan movies, and I love romantic comedies.
And no one screams romance like Christopher Walken.
And so, you know,
maybe David Duchovny.
I always wondered about the people that had no idea what was in store for them in True Romance.
I still insist that, you know, if Die Hard is a Christmas movie,
100%.
True Romance is a rom-com by definition.
I would say there is at least as much romance in True Romance as there is Christmas in Die Hard.
I found it very romantic, and I laughed my ass off several times.
Alabama Whirly, telling Christian Slater how much she loves him and how cool he is after he gets his eyeball shot out. I think True Romance has been kind of a standard bearer for me as to whether or not a relationship is worth pursuing.
I think this will be like the first Mishaco channel movie recommendation. If you have not seen True Romance
or haven't
seen it in a while, do it. It is traumatizing in the best kind of way.
I think the scene between Christopher Walken And I'm having a brain fart for a second.
Yeah, I should have looked up more because I have not seen it sober in many years.
But yeah, Christopher Walken's absolutely amazing in it. Gary Oldman as Drexel. He must have thought it was White Boy Day. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, and honestly, it's a movie that kind of flew under the radar.
It did.
But it is right up there with the quality of Tarantino at his best. It's just got that kind of fast-paced, impossible scenario, shock factor going on. It's a fantastic movie. If you've never seen it, don't let the title True Romance throw you off, because
or
go right ahead. I imagine that it turned as many guys off as it did make women go, oh, maybe this is a rom-com. And guys were all like, I don't want to watch some crap called True Romance. It's kind of the
opposite of a clickbait title.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about as misleading as it gets. But I personally found it very romantic, and it had moments that were very funny. So yes,
rom-com.
If we're gonna call Die Hard a Christmas movie, then by all measure, True Romance is a rom-com.
This was taken from a random conversation we had apropos of nothing about a week ago.
Yep.
Question for Fox: who is Booch anyway? Well, the nickname Booch is, I guess, kind of starting to stick. So yeah, I'll take it. But no, nonetheless, I'm Misha's cousin. Actually, first cousin, so I've known Misha since birth. But yeah, nonetheless, probably a lot of the reason why I'm here is Misha kind of started my gun collecting addiction pretty much right at 18, 19 years old. Bought my first few rifles and shotguns from him and kind of got in it ever since, and here we are now. But yeah, no.
And you'll probably hear more as time goes on. He's going to kind of do his own videos with me popping in, but it'll probably kind of come down to where you'll probably get a video from me a week and a video from him, give or take, maybe 2 from me, 1 from him, but however that works out for the month. But I also thought it'd be good because you're kind of giving the millennial perspective, whereas I'm Gen X, so yeah, it gives different views.
Yeah, few guns that kind of have in the collection that you're not just
and you're not
about.
Much of a bench shooter. You're more of a run and gunner, scoot and shoot type person, so that should give some more dynamic stuff.
Yeah, and I really like to torture test things. So
yeah.
All right, Hardwire 101. Sorry if this question is over asked, but what is your opinion on motorizing a Chinese AK? I know it's not the purest thing to do, but my sights are heavily canted.
Now, if you're talking a pre-ban versus a post-ban, i.e. pre-1989 versus those that came in between 1990 and 1994, there is a big difference. If you're talking pre-ban, leave it alone. If you're talking 1990, 1994, less so, because they were already modified to come into the country and a lot more came in. That said, with the prices that even the post-ban era ones are bringing on Gunbroker, I think I'd just sell it and buy a different AK. It doesn't seem like it'd be worth it. If you can get someone to give you over $1,000 for it, take that money and buy a Fox or a Mauser. And
yeah, I mean, if you're already there and it's not, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah,
it's something you like out.
No side rail. The Chinese guns didn't have a side mount.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going that far, beef it up.
No threaded barrel. I'm trying to think of things that modern guns all have that are. I like threaded barrels. It's just nice to be able to put different devices on.
Well, and even if you don't get what you're exactly wanting, I mean, heck, the Zastava makes a.
There you go. I think a Zastava would actually be a really good modern replacement for a Chinese, because both are 1.5 mil receivers. Both have heavy chrome lined barrels today. Zastavas are kind of built to a very similar. It's different, but very similar spec to the old school Chinese Type 56.
Last question from Nib.
Nib.
Have you handled the P210 carry? How does it compare to your early Swiss and Legion German pistols?
Honestly, no, I haven't handled the carry. I've handled the Legions, but my thoughts on that stuff is, with the way that the modern 210s cost, I just would find myself a nice used 210. I don't know. I like older guns when they're old, but it'd be like why try to modernize a Luger or an older gun like that? Just if you want a modern gun, I don't know. It's not my taste. How about I say that?
There you go.
I really love the original P210 though.
Do you have a IMI Timberwolf? If so, can you review one?
No, I don't have one, but that sounds like something you might actually want and get into eventually. It's just, again, I do historical guns, military guns, sometimes police guns, and that's just not up my wheelhouse. And with the modern prices on guns, I have to really want something to do that.
Yeah, I could definitely see in the future throwing that in.
Or if one gets offered, loaners.
Sure.
Sometimes loaner guns come around. Yeah.
I'd be more than happy to review one if either one of us pick one up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more down my speed. That was the last question from Nib.
Alrighty. Now, it's been a long day, guys, but we need to get this out to you. And, it'll be in a few different places and just trying to mix things up a bit. As I said at the beginning, if you'd like to ask questions, Patreon support, $1 and up a month, yada, yada, yada. Like, share, and subscribe, yada, yada, yada. I promise the next one won't take quite this long. We'll get it done probably Christmas, New Year time. Another part of it, too, is there just hasn't been a lot new in the gun world. There's been a lot of restock and falling prices, but there just hasn't been we did our last Q&A, we recorded it on the 4th of July. Between then and right now, there just hasn't been a whole lot to trip my trigger.
I agree. Well,
but we do appreciate it, guys. Hope this is fun, and I hope the videos that came out of today's long range day are of interest to you. So look forward to those coming out over the next few weeks. And J-Ro behind the camera, you saw him. Say goodbye, J-Ro.
Bye, J-Ro.
There you go. Hey, guys, this is Misha.
this is Fox.
And we'll catch you very soon. Next time.